Imagine standing in Philadelphia in the summer of 1776. The air is thick with heat, but also with tension. The streets are crowded with wagons, merchants, soldiers, and anxious conversations that seem to follow you everywhere you walk. For more than a year, the American colonies have been at war with the most powerful empire on Earth. British troops march across the continent. British warships patrol the coast. And no one knows how this conflict will end. But inside a red brick building in the center of the city, something even more dangerous is being discussed. The building is called the Pennsylvania State House. Today we know it as Independence Hall. From the outside, it looks ordinary. Georgian brick walls, tall white windows, a wooden bell tower rising above the roof. Nothing about it suggests that history is about to shift inside those walls. Yet behind those doors, 56 men are debating an idea so radical that it could cost them their lives. Independence. Delegates from 13 colonies have gathered here for months. Virginia, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Georgia, New York. Some arrived determined to break away from Britain. Others hoped the conflict might still be resolved peacefully. Because declaring independence from the British Crown is not simply a political disagreement. Under British law, it is treason. If these men fail, they will not be remembered as founders of a nation. They will be remembered as traitors, and traitors are hanged. Inside the chamber, the air is stifling. It is June, and the windows remain closed to prevent conversations from drifting into the streets outside. Flies circle lazily through the warm air. Papers are stacked across wooden desks. Quill pens scratch across parchment as delegates revise arguments and proposals. Voices rise, then fall again into careful whispers. Every word matters. Among the men in the room sits a quiet delegate from Virginia. Thomas Jefferson is only 33 years old, tall and reserved, but he has been given an enormous responsibility. Congress has asked him to write the document that will explain to the world why the colonies are separating from Britain. For days, Jefferson works late into the night in a rented room nearby. Candlelight flickers across his desk as he drafts sentence after sentence. He knows this document must do more than complain about taxes or unfair laws. It must explain an entirely new idea of government. The idea that people are not born to serve a king. The idea that governments exist to protect the rights of the people, not to rule over them. Slowly, carefully, Jefferson begins to shape the words. He writes that all men are created equal, that they are born with rights that cannot be taken away. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. These ideas are explosive. Monarchies across Europe rule through birthright and tradition. But Jefferson is suggesting something entirely different, that power should come from the people themselves. When Jefferson finally presents the first draft to Congress, the room erupts into debate. Delegates gather around the document, reading each line carefully. Some praise the clarity of the language. Others immediately begin suggesting changes. Certain phrases are removed. Some accusations against the British Crown are rewritten. A few sentences disappear entirely. The editing lasts for days. But slowly, piece by piece, the document begins to take its final shape. Outside the building, the city continues its daily routine. Farmers bring produce into the markets. Blacksmiths hammer iron in noisy workshops. Children run through the dusty streets. Most people have no idea that inside Independence Hall, the future of 13 colonies is being rewritten. But the men inside know exactly what they are doing. They are not just protesting British rule. They are creating a new country. And once the decision is made, there will be no turning back. By the beginning of July, the tension inside the chamber reaches its peak. Delegates understand that a final vote is approaching. Some pace the room in silence. Others sit quietly reviewing the document once more. Because in a matter of days, the question will finally be asked. Should the colonies become independent? And the answer will change the world forever. By early July, the atmosphere inside Independence Hall becomes almost unbearable. Weeks of arguments, edits, and negotiations have brought the delegates to a single, unavoidable moment. The question is no longer theoretical. It is immediate and dangerous. Should the American colonies declare themselves independent from Great Britain? The men in the room understand the weight of what they are about to decide. Outside the windows, Philadelphia continues its normal rhythm. Wagons roll across the cobblestone streets. Vendors shout in the marketplace. Sailors unload cargo along the Delaware River. But inside the chamber, every voice carries the gravity of history. On July 2nd, the vote finally takes place. One by one, the colonies declare their position. Virginia votes yes. Massachusetts votes yes. Pennsylvania hesitates, but ultimately agrees. South Carolina changes its position at the last moment. Even New York, still cautious, chooses not to oppose the decision. When the final tally is clear, the room falls silent. The colonies have voted for independence. In that moment, 13 separate colonies have just declared themselves something entirely new. Not provinces of a distant empire, not subjects of a king, but independent states. John Adams, one of the most outspoken advocates for independence, later writes that the 2nd of July will be remembered as the most important day in American history. He imagines future generations celebrating the moment with parades, bells, bonfires, and fireworks. But the delegates are not celebrating yet. The vote has only approved the idea. Now the document explaining that decision must be finalized. Over the next 2 days, Congress carefully reviews the final wording of Jefferson's declaration. Small adjustments are made, sentences are refined. The tone is sharpened so the message will be unmistakable to the world. The colonies are breaking away from Britain, not temporarily, not conditionally, forever. On July 4th, 1776, the Congress formally adopts the final version of the Declaration of Independence. Clerks prepare copies, printers begin setting the type. Messengers wait to carry the document to other colonies and to the armies fighting in the field. Inside the chamber, the delegates begin the process that will define them forever. Signing their names. Each signature is an act of extraordinary risk. If the war is lost and the British regain control, every man who signed the document could be arrested and executed for treason. Yet one by one, they step forward. John Hancock, the President of the Congress, signs first. His signature is large and bold, stretching across the parchment with dramatic confidence. According to legend, he writes it so large that King George III will be able to read it without his spectacles. Other delegates follow. Some sign quickly, others pause for a moment before writing their names, fully aware that the ink on that page may seal their fate. When the document is complete, copies begin spreading across the colonies. News travels slowly in the 18th century, but the message moves quickly enough to ignite something powerful. In towns and cities across America, public readings of the Declaration gather crowds of curious listeners. Many hear its words for the first time in busy town squares. We hold these truths to be self-evident. The language is bold, almost shocking. The idea that ordinary people possess natural rights. The claim that governments derive their power from the consent of the governed. For some listeners, the words sound like hope. For others, they sound like rebellion. And for the British Empire, they sound like war. Because the Declaration of Independence does not end the conflict, it transforms it. The war that had already begun is now something larger than a colonial uprising. It has become a struggle for the creation of a new nation, and the outcome is far from certain. The British Army is larger, better trained, better supplied. Many Americans still doubt that the colonies can possibly win, but the decision made inside Independence Hall has changed something fundamental. The colonies are no longer fighting simply to protest British policies. They are fighting to exist. 250 years later, the building where that decision was made still stands in Philadelphia. The wooden floors, the tall windows, the simple wooden desks remain remarkably similar to how they appeared in the summer of 1776. Visitors walk through the same chamber where the delegates argued, hesitated, and finally committed themselves to a revolution. And it is easy to forget how uncertain everything felt in that moment, because independence was not guaranteed. It was chosen by a small group of men in a hot, crowded room who decided that the risk of creating a new nation was worth facing the most powerful empire in the world, and with the stroke of a pen, they changed history forever.